My name is Eleanor Mitchell. I'm 50 years old. And if you had asked me a year ago what my life looked like, I would have said it was stable, predictable, comfortable even. Richard, my husband of 27 years, was the CFO of a logistics company, and I was a literature professor at a local university. We had 2 grown children in college, a home filled with memories, and a golden retriever named Scout, who still slept at our feet every night. For decades, Richard and I had what I believed was a strong marriage. We were never the couple who flaunted affection on Facebook or took selfies at every restaurant, but we had history, a long one. He was the boy who brought me soup when I had mono during our sophomore year, the man who held my hand through 2 miscarriages, the father who sat in the front row at both our kids' graduations with tears in his eyes. So when Richard got promoted to Chief Financial Officer last year, I was genuinely thrilled for him. I threw a surprise dinner at his favorite steakhouse and even invited some of his work friends. He was buzzing with energy that night, like a man with a second wind. I thought it was just excitement from the promotion. In hindsight, maybe it was something else entirely. The changes didn't happen overnight. They crept in like fog. At first he started coming home later. Not outrageously late, just enough that I noticed. A few times a week, he claimed he had end-of-quarter meetings or vendor dinners. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was under more pressure. Promotions come with new responsibilities, right? Then came the clothes. Richard never cared much about what he wore outside work, but suddenly he was buying expensive shirts, new cologne, even styling his hair differently. I teased him at first, asking if he was trying to impress someone. He laughed and brushed it off. Just keeping up appearances, he said. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. Then there were the business trips. At first they were quarterly, then monthly, then almost every other week. One time, he left for Chicago on a Thursday, supposedly returning on Sunday. But when I called his hotel to leave a message, the front desk said he'd checked out Saturday morning. My stomach dropped. I didn't confront him immediately. I wasn't ready. Instead, I started watching more carefully, reading every detail, cross-checking flight bookings with email receipts. I began opening the bank statements he normally handled. That's when I found the restaurant charges. High-expend places, in cities I hadn't been to, candlelit dinners for 2. Once, even a spa bill from a luxury hotel in Napa Valley. We hadn't vacationed in Napa in over 10 years. That's when I knew. I cried in the bathroom the first time the realization hit me. Not loud, dramatic sobbing, just quiet, soul-splitting grief. The kind of crying where your body shakes but no sound comes out. I sat on the tiled floor with a towel clenched to my chest, trying to breathe. After the tears dried, something else took their place. Anger. But it was a cold, calculating kind of anger, not the type that throws plates or screams. No, this was different. It was surgical, intentional. I decided that if Richard had turned our marriage into a farce, then I would end it on my terms, but not before making sure he understood exactly what he had destroyed. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of texts I intercepted from his synced tablet. He didn't realize our devices were still linked. Emails. Receipts. I even hired a private investigator, a woman named Ava, who came highly recommended by a friend who had gone through a messy divorce. Ava was good. Within 2 weeks, she had photos of Richard entering a boutique hotel in Dallas with a brunette in her late 30s. The same woman showed up again in San Francisco. A different woman appeared in Denver. It was like he had a woman in every city he visited. I compiled everything in a folder I labeled The Truth. It was over 100 pages long, including timestamps, images, credit card charges, and call logs. When I showed it to my therapist, she looked at me and said, "You could prosecute this like a case." But I didn't want to take him to court. Not yet. Richard's company held an annual charity gala every March. It was black tie, with hundreds of guests. Employees, investors, journalists. This year, Richard was chosen as the host. He was meant to deliver a speech about ethics of all things. I almost laughed when I saw the invite. That was when I knew what I had to do. I reached out to the event's A/V coordinator under the guise of helping Richard with his speech visuals. I claimed he had a last-minute request for a slideshow to run during his keynote. I even wore a company lanyard and name tag, borrowed from a friend of mine who worked in corporate PR. The night of the gala, I wore a navy gown Richard had complimented years ago. I entered the venue alone, greeted a few familiar faces, and waited. When Richard took the stage, I almost didn't recognize him. He looked polished, confident, charismatic. The room quieted as he started his speech about transparency and leadership. That's when the screen behind him flickered, and the first image appeared. Richard, walking hand in hand with the brunette in Dallas, then another from Denver in a dimly lit restaurant, a screenshot of a text. "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. People looked at each other in confusion, then at Richard. He froze. Tried to turn, but the images kept playing, one after another. His voice faltered. The mic picked up his shallow breathing. He looked like he might faint. The final slide was a message in white letters on black. "I stood by you for 27 years. This is what you did with my love." Silence. Then murmurs. Then chaos. I walked out before anyone could speak to me. Scout was waiting in the car. I drove home with the windows down, the cold air stinging my cheeks. It was the first time I'd felt truly alive in months. In the days that followed, Richard tried to contact me. Dozens of calls, emails, a handwritten letter on my pillow. I didn't answer. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. The divorce was swift. With the evidence, there was no contest. I kept the house, the retirement savings, even the lake cabin we had bought 5 years ago and only used once. He moved into a rental apartment. Our children were devastated, but I told them the truth when they were ready to hear it. And you know what? They stood by me. It's been almost a year now. I changed the locks, repainted the bedroom, started yoga, took a trip to Florence alone, sat in the Uffizi gallery and cried at a Botticelli painting. Cried because I was free, because I had survived. Last week, I met someone new. His name is Daniel. He's kind, gentle, loves poetry and woodworking. He doesn't flinch when I talk about the past. I never thought I'd start over at 50, but here I am, and I'm not just surviving. I'm living. The end.